a shame when a lot of the research that has been devoted to the short stuff is being sort of incorrectly applied to long distance athletes. I think that gap is only recently just really starting to be brought down, and we're getting an understanding for the specifics of our sport.
You are listening to Zen and the Art of Triathlon.
Well, hey there, all you Zen triathlon freaks and geeks, and welcome to another great episode of Zen and the Art of Triathlon. Hey, on this show, as you heard at the top of the show, we have the incredible Alan Couzens. I love having him on. He is such a wizard with ultra training and has just an amazing background and does a ton of work in research on endurance athletes, and it's just such a find to get him on to talk about all kinds of great stuff. We talk about how to know if you're starting to become uncoachable and what would make you uncoachable. It's really cool. And we talk about sodium, hydration. Is the crusty salt on your clothes when you finish training or racing, is that from too much salt in your diet, or because you're just a high sodium sweater? And also we talk about intervals versus just base volume and which one's actually more effective and for whom. It's a really great interview. And I should also mention that I am here in San Diego, or Tan Diego as Rich Roll likes to call it. I'm here for work, but while I'm here, I used to live here a long time ago, and also I have friends that live here, so I was hanging out with Morgan over last weekend and did a little bit of trail running and a little bit of swimming in the famous pool that they've got here. It's really cool. I think when Maddie Reed does videos of him swimming and some technique stuff, that this is the pool that they show. They show it with some pros, and I've swum in it before. It's really cool. Went off the high dive, all kinds of crazy crap. But it's been just a really nice trip. I'm about halfway through my week here, and then when I head back to Texas, I'm going to have to finish moving houses. So lots of crazy stuff going on in my life, but that's enough about me. Let's go ahead and cover a little bit of triathlon news. Here we go. All right, the one thing that is big enough to make the news, well, there's two things. There's a Tour de France going on, which is really cool. And I've got the app on my phone, and you buy it, then it'll show up on your iPad, and you can watch the tour live and recap, stuff like that. But that's something, if you're too late this time around, you can catch next year. It's really great. I really, really strongly encourage it. It's very neat. You get to watch all the videos of the wrecks, which is fun. But also, Garmin introduced a heart rate strap that allows you to see your heart rate while swimming. And I'm here to tell you, whoa. Slow down your horses, everybody. Don't start freaking out like this is the greatest and newest thing ever, because Sunto has been doing this for quite a while. And on top of that, Polar has been doing it forever. And actually, I had a watch a long time ago that was neither one of those brands. Maybe it was Axiom or something that could do it as well. And there's also a catch with the newer watches, the Garmin and the Sunto, where it doesn't show you your heart rate live. What it does is it can't transmit Bluetooth or ANT signal, which is the protocols that they use, because through the water, because the water molecule is the same width as the wavelength of the ANT frequency, 2.3 megahertz. Yeah, or gigahertz, 2.3 gigahertz. And that's the same frequency as a microwave. And you know how a microwave gets stuff hot? Well, it agitates the water in your food and heats it up because the water's blocking the signal. And so the water's got to move with it. and it'll heat up your food. Well, you're in a swimming pool and your watch is the microwave. Well, guess which one's more powerful now? The pool. It's way more powerful than your little watch battery trying to transmit, or your heart rate strap battery trying to transmit to your watch, and it absorbs all that signal and it's not going anywhere. You have to hold your heart rate strap literally within an inch of your watch for it to pick up the signal. So they've Suunto and Garmin have put memory chips in the heart rate strap, and then when you stand up with your chest above water, and if your wrist with your watch is above water as well, they talk to each other at that point, and with a burst mode, it'll update the watch with your heart rate of what you've been doing lately. While it was recording while it was blocked, and that's how it does it. Now, if you have an older watch, there's some versions of Polar, and there's like I said, some other watches where the signal is analog, not digital, not Bluetooth, not ANT, but it's an old analog frequency. Then what happens is that wavelength is much bigger. It's more like ham radio, and it's a much bigger frequency, and it travels farther through the water. The water doesn't block it, and you can swim along and get live heart rate, live the entire time on your watch while you are swimming. So all you have to do is just look at your watch while you're doing a flip turn or something like that, and it'll tell you what's going on that way. No, but there is something cool that Garmin came up with, which is the swimming heart rate strap is wider, and it have less tendency to flip over and roll down your body when you push off the wall, and also the backing material is sticky-ish. And so it's most likely to stay put. DC Rainmaker did a nice review, but he didn't get to actually wear it in the water, so he doesn't know. And we'll just see. So I've had several people email me about this watch. And, heart rate after you're done doesn't really help you. I mean, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. I want to see my heart rate right now, what I'm doing. And if I really wanted to know that, then I would get an older watch with an analog signal. But it does record what happened in the water so that you could, after you're all done swimming, you could see, what your heart rate was doing. But the other thing is I train by heart rate on on the run and on the bike, and I already know what different heart rates feel like. And from all that practice, is hours and hours and hours of biking and running, I can tell by breathing and effort and burn what's happening in the water. And lots of people have gotten very, very great at swimming without using heart rate. So, in fact, that would be pretty much everybody. And it's not having a heart rate strap in the water is not your limiter, trust me. But if you want to try it out, definitely give it a try. Maybe it's the thing that'll work for you. Okay, so that is the biggest thing in triathlon news. We got Boulder coming up, Ironman Boulder coming up so soon. I got lots of friends in that. Ironman Lake Placid is coming up next weekend. By the time you get the show, it'll be half over, and there'll be lots of drama up there. It's the American Summer Classic. All right, so that's all the good stuff. Let's do a sponsor shout-out before we get into our interview with Alan Couzens, and let's talk about Amrita bars. I brought a bunch of them with me here to San Diego. I had 2 of them while I was in the airport flying, for like 6 hours, and this is so great. Amrita bars are healthy, solid nutrition that is, one thing, it's nut-free, so you don't have to worry about allergens if you have a nut allergy, and it's wholesome, healthy food where you don't have to worry about anything. It's so zen, so simple, so nice, and you can actually get, let's see, what's the discount code? It's discount code ZEN, Z-E-N, at AmritaHealthFoods.com, and Amrita is A-M-R-I-T-A, AmritaHealthFoods.com, and you can get 15% off the entire store of everything, and they have really cool kits. And also I saw somebody sent me a picture that they're starting to carry them at some of the Sprouts stores, and that is really, really cool. And yeah, I just love it, man. I ate half a bar as I get up in the morning, and Tawny Prazak fixed me on that on overeating in the morning. Eat like half a bar, maybe sometimes a whole bar, but then and some water and a cup of coffee, and then boom, go out and hit my run, and I just have just long-lasting, wonderful energy the entire time. So cool. Eat the other half when I finish up, and that's it. So super, super easy. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our interview with Alan Couzens. And while you're listening to him, and you start thinking about you want to research him a little bit and maybe get in touch with him, in the middle of the interview, his last name, if you're looking for Alan Couzens on Google, because he's got a big website, it's really cool. His last name is spelled Couzens. It's Alan Couzens. And let's go ahead and get started with Alan. Here we go.
Welcome to the next level.
I am here with Alan Couzens, which you've got such a great variety of sports background. I'm not even sure how to introduce you other than you're that Alan Couzens, who does a lot of you're an athlete and a research scientist. I think I'm describing it correctly. And you have a wonderful website full of just the coolest information about that you've discovered or researched that you've put together for people to use. And I should mention I'm in San Diego, so if you hear attack choppers flying overhead, that's what that is. I'm really close to the U.S., the new aircraft carrier that they're putting out to sea soon. So,
very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
And
yeah.
You're in.
Thanks for having me.
You're in Superior, Colorado, right now, or where are you from?
Lafayette, Colorado, right now. Yep. Well, originally from Sydney, Australia, but I've been living in the States since 2000, and Colorado since 2004. So.
Right. Hey, can you give our audience a brief background on your sporting background? I know you were a swimmer growing up, just like me, I think, and then you got caught up in the whole ultra endurance mania, and then started working with Gordo Byrne, and then now you are where you are. So let us know how that happened.
Yeah, no, that is pretty much the story, and I think it's a pretty familiar story based on what I've heard. Started out as a swimmer and discovered triathlon after getting a little bored with the black line, I guess, and just kind of really developed a passion for endurance sports, and decided to study that at the university level. Got my master's in exercise phys, and it just kind of progressed from there. Athletically, I started to kind of discover Ironman and take that a little bit more seriously as well, and those two worlds kind of collided, and now I'm just geeking out on a bunch of Ironman specific data, I guess.
Yeah, which seems to be an area there's been decades of sports science research, but we're talking stuff that's short, and long distance is a whole nother animal. That
completely agree. And it's a shame when a lot of the research that has been devoted to the short stuff is being sort of incorrectly applied to long distance athletes, and I think that gap is only recently just really starting to be brought down, and we're getting an understanding for the specifics of our sport.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of cases where you have world-class level pros in short course trying to go long course, and it takes them at least a year, and sometimes much more. I think now it's happening faster and faster, right? I'm trying to think of the guy from New Zealand that just a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, started trying to go long course. And
maybe Bevan? Or is it,
Bevan Doherty. Yeah. And his big hang-up was nutrition, just trying to nail it down. Obviously could win races if he figured out his nutrition. And then, but as we're moving along, you see people like Jan Frodeno and Reef like coming along and moving to longer and longer races with, I think research that you're doing and other people are doing is really helping out because they're not trying to have to figure out the mystery themselves like every single time on their own. So we're seeing pros come along now, I think faster and faster with the more research that's happening in this field, but it just seems like there's so much more to go because I think you've said and what you've written in your interviews, you find a lot of success in helping the more of the average athlete become successful. And the stuff that that you're finding out for long course is still, it's like battling against all the short course information still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it crosses a lot of fields. In training, we've got still a lot of emphasis on that sort of FTP and threshold stuff, and everything's kind of built around that, and maybe not as much emphasis in the regular literature, the layman's literature, on the specifics of going long and maximizing, adaptation specific to that.
Oh, so that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard somebody say this. Are you saying that maybe FTP isn't the best thing to work with on the bike for a long course?
I guess what I'm saying is that a lot of athletes become focused on raising the FTP, and I think for long course, certainly late in the season, the emphasis should be more on racing at the highest percentage of FTP that you possibly can, and there's sort of there's all these assumptions out there, of what intensity factor you should be able to hold for an Ironman, but a lot of athletes never go to the trouble of actually proving that in their key sessions, I think there's definitely a little bit of a gap there between the theory and what's actually applied.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you're saying that because you work with Gordo, and Gordo Byrne is where I learned, reading some of his stuff, the big gap between tested FTP and actual real world FTP, and that's where, because of reading that's where I started going out and sampling my workouts for sections that would most resemble the race and the most in long segments, and then gathering power data from that. And instead of, I remember when I first started out, I would do an FTP test uphill to get the highest numbers.
Yeah.
That's so typical. It's so dumb, And I was just like, oh man, that's not how you do it. That's not the race. The race. I had Jordan Rapp on here one time saying, yeah, you can find more watts when going uphill. For sure, it's easy to do.
It's addictive to keep seeing bigger numbers, So it becomes a trap to sort of, you choose the tests that are going to make you look the best and give you the biggest numbers, and without really applying it and thinking about, well, how specific is this to the race?
Yeah, I sometimes I like to just go select rolling terrain where I just felt kind of average, and I'm like, that's a really good guesstimate of how I'll feel during a race. And those numbers end up being so right on, instead of trying to engineer the test, for when I felt great and I was just killing it, and then sampling those numbers, because that's a rarity. That's not what actually happens.
No, that's right. And I think we all as athletes think that something special is going to happen on race day, and sometimes it does, and it's great when it does, when an athlete performs above and beyond what you expect. But I think it's always good to start from the position of, well, based on what's actually happened, the athlete's average over the past couple of blocks, what can we realistically expect? And I think that leads to better execution for sure.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I wanted to go over your racing background a little bit. You've done some Ironmans, probably tons. I don't know, it's kind of hard to find your race history online. It's like, out of effort of modesty, you've buried it. You know?
No,
I could not find it. So
not at all. No, I'm probably just too old. It's probably disappeared off the interweb. But yeah, I've been.
you did Ultramans. You've done an Ultraman or two, right?
No, I haven't done Ultraman. No, I've coached a couple of Ultraman athletes. I have not. I haven't done Ultraman. You know, obviously, I'm working with Gorda too.
You let him do them and then just tell you what happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that sounds a little bit more appealing. But no, it's a long way. It's a long way, Brett.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. So, and you, like you said, you grew up as a swimmer, which is really cool. I was a sprint freestyler.
Yeah. What sort of times were you laying down?
My fastest ever sprint was a 50-yard free sub 21 seconds, and I was only 17 years old. Had just turned 17, and then I got injured, and then burned out, and then quit for 10 years.
Yep. That's a common story, isn't it? It really is.
I had a shoulder injury, and I was like, that's it. I went to Texas. I had an offer for a swim scholarship at one school, and then when I was at A&M, Texas A&M, my sophomore year, somebody said that I, could just walk on the swim team, that I'd probably qualify. And I thought about it for a long time, and then somebody that I knew from high school was on the swim team, and she said, you don't want to do it. It's, 2-3 hours a day, it seems like, of swimming. And then when you have to leave to go to a swim meet, if you were a football player, the coaches give you all kinds of slack. The teachers give you all kinds of slack on your test taking and stuff. But because Texas A&M is a big football school, and you get very little consideration as a traveling athlete, as a swimmer. It's just sucked. And my brother was on a college swim team, and a different one, and he said it's just it's work all the time, and what are you going to do with it after graduation? It's not going to lead to a career if you're just doing it on the side. And so I said, no, I guess I'm out. And my brother, still to this day, cannot get him into a pool. And he's 44 or something.
It's bad, man. Like I was a personal trainer in Gainesville for a period, and obviously it's a big college town, and a lot of ex-college athletes still live in the town, and it's amazing to see the former athletes who they'd gone through that whole cycle of being burned out on the sport, and then they just completely fall off the rails and, gain a bunch of weight and get way out of shape, and then, reach that point where they just can't handle it anymore, so they come back, and they just they cycle between these periods of being really obsessed and really focused and complete burnout, I'm trying to really push for something that's sustainable with the athletes I work with now.
Yeah, my son is on a kids triathlon team. He started when he was about 7 years old, I think. And when I saw them practice, I thought this was wonderful because they swim like 3 times a week, and they bike 3 times a week and run 3 times a week, maybe something like that. And they're learning all 3 sports and teamwork and all this great stuff, but just like us, we adults in triathlon, if one of them has some sort of injury or gets a little bit tired, they just skip that thing, and they do the other thing for a while. And seeing what I, and my brother went through. If my son says he's tired and doesn't want to go to a workout, I say, you're not going then. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to go. I'd rather have you happy than being a 14. I had a friend that got burned out at swimming at age like 13. He was done. He went to be a state champion and I was like, that's just too much.
Yeah, no, it's sad, but that happens to the very best, and I've worked with a lot of age group swim programs, and it's crazy the sort of pressure that those kids are under, and I don't think it has to be doesn't have to be like that. A lot of those kids are naturally talented anyway. They're going to be fast without all that pressure on them.
That is true. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's jump topics a little bit and talk about something that was really fascinating that you wrote up on your blog, and it was about me and Tawny, or it was about a lot of people, but Tawny and I brought it to your attention about the uncoachable athlete, which I was reading this, and I've never before read something so much that was directed at me.
Well, let's be upfront and say that it's not just you. That there are a lot of a lot of athletes who that post could have applied to for sure.
And okay, so then you brought it up, or you wrote it, and then I started. You know how like if you start driving a yellow car, then you start noticing all the yellow cars around, or I just started noticing all these people now that offhandedly mentioned that they're uncoachable. Yeah. And there's something to it. Your blog post really does describe it well. But I thought we'd go over that for a minute, like what makes a person uncoachable. And then also I'd like to ask you, like, is it something that, is it permanent? Is it a mindset that can change? I've got a theory that after we talk about it for a little bit that I can put forth as well. So where'd you come up with this uncoachable athlete syndrome?
I mean, I don't think I invented it by any stretch of the imagination. I think we as coaches who specialize in age group triathlon are coaching a really, really unique population. Generally, the athletes that I work with are typically very successful. They have their own business, or if they don't have their own business, they're at the very top of their field in whatever profession they're in. They're your typical type A sort of athlete, mm-hmm. and they're used to being in control of situations. And coaching, I think, by its very nature, it needs an athlete to come to it with an attitude that they want to learn something, that they want to be taught, that they don't know it all. They're willing to, to kind of admit that and come at it from that angle, and I think for that population, that's often very, very tough, just because they're out of practice. It's not their normal dynamic in working with people. So it's a really really common and really interesting sort of dynamic to work with as a coach. To try to encourage the athlete to kind of just be cool with that. And be a little bit willing to receive instruction, not be the alpha dog. And it's always a challenge for especially when you're working with guys coming from that perspective.
Yeah. And I think there's another aspect is there's definitely with me there's a small mix of that, and then the other thing is the years and years of training, and then and knowing what kept running through my head is Tawny would suggest something, and I've already been down that road. I'm like, yeah. No, and with the limited amount of time and getting older, and like the amount of time you have in a day to train, and then with your limited career time left to try to get fast, it's kind of like the way I would feel is like, no, I've already done that. That works for some people, right? This whatever somebody might suggest. Okay, that works for some people. I've tried that, doesn't work for me, and you're not going to get my full commitment on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say no now, so that we can cut that short, because you're not going to get any success. I'm not all the way in on that weird thing. So I think there's also the like somebody that's already been trained incorrectly or correctly, right, a long time. It's like an old dog, like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. They're just going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm not so into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally do, and I guess I agree with you, but my follow-up would be that a lot of athletes, their memory of themselves is not very good.
Oh, totally. Yes.
They don't keep great details, and it's the epic successes and the epic failures that they have good memories of, and it comes back to that subjectivity thing, where unless I see an athlete who comes to me with a lot of data and they're like, I tried this back in this year, and here's my logs from that, here's what I did, here's the end result, that's a different story, and that's really useful, and it's great when an athlete has that sort of background. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, the whole subjectivity thing, because oftentimes we're not really dealing with absolutes, and we're not. It's not a controlled experiment. There's always so much going on at different times within an athlete's life, so it's really hard to make concrete conclusions on what works and what doesn't, because it's all relative to what's going on at that particular time. So yeah.
There's the thing you mentioned about the memory being bad. That leads to another problem where we see this all the time, where you have somebody that's middle-aged and they're really out of shape, but in their mind they were a high school superstar, right? Yeah. And so they've already done that, and in their mind they're fit and athletic. It kind of stays residual with them for a long time, and you're like, no, look in the mirror. You're out of shape. You gotta drop weight and get healthy again. You're like, well, back in high school I was this and that. You're like, no, go try to do that now. You can't do it because you're out of shape. It just shows how like your current mind is really influenced by your history and what you think. And yeah, your memories get crisscrossed, and they say every time you recall a memory and you have it present in your mind, that it actually gets contaminated even more. That every time.
Yeah, and for that sort of athlete too, it's often like an all or nothing proposition. It's like, well, I'm going to get back in shape, so I'm going to do an Ironman, I'm going to qualify for Kona, and I'm going to be at the very best of the sport within a year, sort of thing. It's not a case of, well, I'm going to get back into shape. That's step one. Let's just do our 12-hour weeks, whatever, and just kind of get the ball rolling and get back into shape, and then look at more competitive goals a little further afield.
Right. Or I'm not a good swimmer unless I can swim a 21-second 50-yard freestyle again. Because I did that one.
Isn't it? You have that perspective, and it's something that I think as we get older and we realize, well, it's kind of cool just being fit when you're in your 40s and being healthy and, not having all these problems that everyone else is having, that you sort of realize that, well, being in decent shape is still a good thing.
In your 40s and 50s, on up, being awesome just means not having lower back pain.
You can, not be diabetic and not be,
Yeah, I totally agree, because all my coworkers around me and myself too, if I kind of lay off of things, start falling apart. Yeah. You got to stay on top of it, and if I don't exercise on a regular basis, I get back pain and shoulder pain and all kinds of stuff. So well, that's really cool that we got to talk about that. So let's say you have somebody that's uncoachable. What steps do you take to, or say you find out yourself that you're uncoachable? My thing that I wanted to tell you is I kind of rehearse myself or ask myself, okay, if this one coach isn't working, what coach would, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, if Dave Scott told me how to train, or Gordo, right? Then I would probably listen, and then do probably. I would totally probably, but then you got to ask yourself, like, why? Why does this one person make you do it, but not somebody else? And I think, like, you have to. A good coach is somebody that, for you, is somebody that really inspires you and gets you off your ass to do what they say.
Yeah, I think for the athlete, you really, when you go into a coaching relationship, you want to go into it with someone that you think knows more than you, and that it sounds silly, but a lot of athletes, I think, particularly the type we're talking about, come into it with all of that knowledge that you're talking about. You know, they've been obsessed with the sport for a long period of time. They read all the magazines, they've read the books, and maybe they don't really, in their heart of hearts, believe that whoever they're hiring knows more than they do. You know, it's more a case of, well, I should get a coach because
checking the boxes.
Check the box, right? You know,
I was telling somebody, I said, anybody that's going to coach me and get me to do what they want, I can't afford. So I guess I'm on my own. Because, it would be like, and in my case, for whatever weird reason, it would, because I've thought about the top female coaches, you know, as well. And I'm like, no, like it would have to be somebody that is so much like me, right? That when stuff starts coming apart, I would be able to tell them everything. And they would know, they would understand everything that I'm talking about. It'd have to be like my age, my gender, my background as far as like years of doing it, and then have kids and like really understand and working and try to understand like how to really put it all together.
And I think there's something to that too. You know, I don't know if it necessarily has to be the coach themselves, but we all tend to specialize in a particular sort of demographic of athlete, you know, and if an athlete's always coaching, you know, small females, maybe they don't have the same level of knowledge with large males as some other coaches, you know. So it's I think that's worth considering when you're looking around for sure.
Yeah. So along with that post, I noticed I'd been on your blog before looking at some other stuff that you'd written. You have a lot of cool calculators on your website that you've put together, but the really fascinating thing I found on your site that I found fascinating was that this metabolism analysis you've done for Kona qualifiers. And because there was all this talk, there has been for a while now, of optimizing your fat burning. And then you did research, you've been doing research on athletes forever, it seems like, and with statistically, you kind of looked at being actually, what is the metabolism like for people that qualify for Kona versus for age groupers that qualify for Kona versus everybody else? And you found that actually there was a breaking point, it seemed like, of being too much fat burning, limited the athlete, if I guess maybe their top speed or something like that they would need to qualify for Kona. They could go all day, but it seems like they needed, you did it in grams of carbohydrate, and I did a little bit of short math and figured it seems somewhere around like 200 calories per hour of carb burning seemed optimal for, or what was happening for your Kona qualifiers. Do you remember that blog post? And can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think at the level that age group triathlon is at now, you know, the athletes who qualify, they're putting out a pretty significant output. You know, the larger athletes who are qualifying are, you know, maybe putting out 240, 250 watts on the bike.
Right.
You know, so it's a big metabolic output that they're, you know, that they have to fuel over the course of a very long day. And, you know, I guess my take is that we really need all of our energy systems contributing to that in order to make it happen. You know, the fat oxidation is something that is incredibly, has a huge capacity but doesn't have a lot of power. So, you know, it's something that can go on indefinitely, and something that, you know, we see in ultra races and things like that, it becoming emphasized more and more. But when we're talking about something, you know, an event that's 9 or 10 hours, it's not enough. The sort of output that fat oxidation can fuel, even in athletes who are ridiculously good at burning fat, you know, guys who are putting out 10 and 12 kcal per minute from fat, they need 15, 16, 17 kcal per minute output overall over the course of the race, you know, so they're still coming up short unless they have the ability to get it from somewhere else. And, you know, it's easy to say, well, you know, on race day, of course, there's all this carbohydrate on course, and, you know, we'll deal with it then. But a lot of athletes who take it to extremes become so detrained in their body's ability to use carbohydrate that their body freaks out, and oftentimes they feel sick, and their blood sugar does all these funky kind of highs and lows when they begin to take it, and it's something that I think the athlete needs to stay in touch with over the course of their preparation.
Yeah, I was reading that, and let's say you can take in about half as much on the run as you could on the bike, and that's just, see, that could be an incorrect assumption right there as well if it's down in the 200 calorie range. But so I was thinking, like, so when I go out and do my long bike rides, I should try to eat maybe 250, 300 calories per hour, and then on the run 100, 150 or something like that. Should I be doing that in training the pretty much all my workouts, longer workouts, or what's the right mix?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that's race pace, which could be zone 2 for an age group athlete.
Yeah.
If you're at Ironman intensity, then you should be fueling as you will during the Ironman. And that limiter is more a glucose transport limiter. How much can you get across the gut wall and not have a whole bunch of solute kind of building up in your stomach over the course of the race, because that is a limiter for a lot of people, So I think you have to experiment a little bit to find exactly, just how much carbohydrate you can take in without ill effect. But you can't ignore that, And I see a lot of athletes who are looking to maximize their fat burning are doing silly things like 5-hour rides on no calories. And
I did one of those one time. That was so stupid. I did a 3-hour ride in the heat, and then I had to go to the eye doctor because I was seeing spots the next day, and he said that I'd gotten so dehydrated that that my corneas, or the back of my eyes, were drying out.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I did one by virtue of the fact that I had a blood test scheduled for later in the day. And of course, I'm not going to do the sensible thing and just rest that day leading into the blood test. So I go out and do like a 4-hour fasted ride.
Sure.
And the blood test comes back and they think I'm like an alcoholic. My liver enzymes are all screwed up, and they're like, "Well, you're in some seriously bad shape here." That was all that I did differently. I did a ride where I essentially starved myself. So yeah, it's not healthy.
Yeah, that's probably a definition of exercise addiction at that point. Well, I'm still going to go for my 4-hour ride. I'm not going to reschedule anything because that 4-hour ride's coming.
True, but half the list of the audience would do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I've done it. Yeah, it's crazy. I personally had to kind of break through. I was so carb fueled and carb addicted that I had to do quite a few workouts in a row with bringing nothing with me. And it was really weird, Alan, where I would bonk kind of partially into the workout, and then the next time I'd go for a workout, I'd bonk further into the workout, and I would just kind of walk through the bonk until I kind of got on the other side of it. And it was weird. I pushed out my my carbohydrate breaking point over workouts over like a week or two, out to the point where it no longer affected me. As I was doing, also at the same, like you said, there's so many variables. At the same time, I was taking Tawny's advice and rearranging my food. I was eating too close to workout, so all my blood was going to my stomach all the sugar in my blood was going to my stomach to digest the food. And it's just this weird, and then I was also taking plenty of caffeine before my workout. So like these storms, all these waves happening at once, making this perfect storm. So I was like bonking like 20 minutes into a workout.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key mistake that a lot of people make. It's not so much about what they're doing during a workout and taking in too much sugar during the workout. It's taking in sugar away from workouts, and I think in terms of improving an athlete's metabolism, that's where the greatest upside is, changing their habitual diet.
Well, let's cover a couple more things. I'm going to do an Ultraman a self-supported Ultraman in October, and I wanted your input on a couple of things. The mix of long versus short workouts, for one. So I'm a fan of Sami Inkinen's training in that there's not much of it. I don't know if you know who he is. You know who he is, right?
Sure. Yeah, I've spoken with Sammy a little bit and gone over some of his data and stuff. Yeah.
And but also everybody's different, and he's apparently like a freakishly high responder to any kind of training at all. If he lifts a pencil, then the next thing he'll do is bench press 500 pounds. It appears like with his body.
I think that would be a fair conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if him posting his stuff is actually helpful or harmful, but to normal people. But I don't really know. I kind of fancy myself a fast responder, or high responder, I guess. But that's a want. That's not really a fact. So I don't really know that for sure. But I do like his style of working out of intervals with lots of rest, and then the occasional long workout. And do you think, and it's kind of like the occasional is just to check in, and practice your pacing and your fueling.
Yeah.
And a 5-hour bike ride really doesn't have much value whatsoever as far as improving you, but shorter workouts do. Do you think that that's truthful at all, or just depends on the person? You try it and kind of see if it works for you, or something that just doesn't work, except for it's just really rare individuals?
Yeah, I don't think that works long term for most athletes, and there's certainly exceptions to every rule, but the benefits that you get from high intensity training are different, and admittedly quicker, but different to the benefits that you get from base training, and I think that over the long term, it all comes back to the base that the athlete has established, and Sammy obviously, is a good example of someone who does have a good base, coming from a row background, and he has done some serious miles in the past, which is always worth looking at it in that context of where these athletes are coming from.
Yeah, I think if you read his stuff, it should always be like, I have a header above it that says, "This is how somebody that was already really, really fast got faster."
and that's absolutely true, and I think for that sort of athlete who has that base established and maybe has been doing a lot of long stuff, oftentimes they'll lose touch with the top end, and their response will slow down because that they're just narrowing that gap between their very high end performance and their regular sort of performance, and at that time it makes sense to try and widen that gap, but I think for most athletes the opposite of that is true. They have much more top end than they have base.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about sodium. In Texas right now, it's high humidity where I train, and oh my gosh, heat index basically is humidity plus the temperatures, well over 100, 105, 120 sometimes. And I think my biggest limiter, a lot of our listening audience, especially now here in the summer, our biggest limiter is hydration, and along with that, is the sodium and electrolytes to get that hydration where it needs to go. And I think a lot of us are probably familiar with the whole, go out and work out and then weigh yourself before and weigh yourself after to see how much you're actually losing. But I think there's a lot of confusion on how much sodium or electrolyte that people should be adding. And is it something that, is there a set number, or is it different per person? And is it set no matter how much you drink, or is it always it should be a set amount of sodium per liter, for example, that you drink?
Yeah, I mean, it is very individual, and it's a really tricky topic for ultra endurance, because if you get it wrong on either side, then you're in trouble. And if you get it wrong on the side of taking in too little sodium for the amount that you're drinking of pure water and, hydrating, you can be in real trouble with hyponatremia. So it's a number that you kind of want to get right, especially for the more serious athlete who, is maybe more focused on competitive outcome, and less focused on their body during the course of those events. So I think it's a really important metric to have tested, honestly, for ultra athletes. And that would be my best advice. Would be if someone is serious about dialing in their hydration strategy and dialing in their sodium intake, to actually have a sweat test at a lab, where they actually analyze the content of sodium in the sweat that you're expelling, sort of thing. So that would be best case. Next best case would be roundabout figures. I think almost everybody should be taking in at least a gram an hour during a long event. And if you get that wrong, then you'll tend to feel it. You'll be still very thirsty, and you might notice some swelling and things like that. So it's something that you can probably feel out if you're overdoing it. But if you're underdoing it, then it's a little bit more scary, because you can, it's a little bit more of a switch. You just kind of, you become disoriented, and you can maybe think it's heat stroke, but it's not heat stroke, and that kind of situation is something you want to avoid.
So the gram per hour is just average, and you got to pardon me. There's somebody rearranging chairs all around. But the gram per hour, would you mix that in with your water ahead of time, or if you're taking it as a salt pill, is that different?
So most sports drinks won't be anywhere close to that. Just because they don't want to taste that bad. If you put like a gram in a liter of fluid, it tastes very salty. It doesn't taste very good at all. So generally, I think the best bet is to do what you can in the water that's still not going to prove unpalatable. It's going to be something that you're actually going to want to drink over the course of the race, and then to do the rest of it in salt tabs. So you might be half and half depending on what mix you're using. And obviously you can customize that if you're using something like Infinite, or you can customize it yourself and just add a little bit of salt to your regular mix.
Another question is, maybe you can put to rest if you know, maybe you really do know, the whole salt, the white on your outfit after doing a race or a long training day.
Yeah.
And the big question, hold on, let's let this helicopter go by. I really feel like I'm in a war zone.
Sounding good.
Better behave myself. Oh. We'll edit all this out. It'll be great.
Sure.
So when athletes finish a workout or a race and their outfit's caked in salt, the big argument is, some people say, well, that means that they're a salty sweater, and then other people say, well, that's because you digested so much salt anyway that your body's trying to get rid of it. So do you have a insight on which that really is? Is your body like extracting it no matter what, or it's a reflection of how much you ate?
No, you're never going to take in. You're never going to take in more salt than what you're expelling. So if you're seeing a lot of, not that that's it's not easy to quantify. Just how much salt you're expelling by how much is on your outfit, sort of thing. But no, it's definitely coming from the sweat that you're expelling over the course of the event. And just as a kind of general rule of thumb, I would say that the athletes who I see the most caked in salt also tend to have the highest, sodium sweat rates as well. So complete non-scientific correlation there, but I would agree with that.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's all I've got for you right now. I really enjoyed having you on. And
Yeah, no, it was great, man. We'll definitely do it again in the future.
I'm hoping that we get some questions. People, we'll have you give your how to find you here in a second, and then when people have more questions, we can answer them on the show. As we get closer to me doing this Ultraman, self-supported Ultraman, we're going to get really way into the science because it's going to take a whole lot of science to get me to that finish line.
I have an athlete making his comeback this year. He was second overall in the Ultraman World Championships in 2011. So he's going back again this year. So Ultraman will definitely be at the forefront of my mind over the next few months. That's for sure.
And I think with me, the hydration and the sodium is huge because one, it's a major limiter for my training right now, right? Yeah. If I feel exhausted the day after a big day because I didn't drink or didn't absorb enough hydration, then that undercuts what I could do that day. And then because Ultraman's not it's not a one-day event, I think it's critical that on day 1, day 2, and even through day 3, especially, I mean, every single day I'm going to have hydration nailed. Because it's just going to keep piling up on me if I start getting dehydrated.
Yeah, I mean, those tests to do a proper kind of sodium wash at a university lab, they're not cheap, but in terms of kind of prioritizing testing for an ultra athlete, it's a test that I think has a lot of value.
Cool. So you think they probably have something like that at Texas A&M?
I'm sure they would. Yeah. Just check in with the exercise phys department, and I'm sure they would have one, or they could point you to where it would be done.
Cool. Okay. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
They can check out my website, alancouzens.com. If people have questions, they can email me, alan@endurancecorner.com, and also check out endurancecorner.com. We have a lot of great resources for age group athletes there. So.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brett. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan. I wrote down a bunch of his advice and will be using it for training for my own self-supported Ultraman in October. And I've got somebody joining me that's going to try to do it as well. And like I said in the interview, hydration is my big limiter down here in hot Texas. We've got temperatures heading over 100 degrees, and I'm supposed to go out and bike in that stuff on a regular basis, like Ultraman volume. I mean, that's crazy. So I'm definitely going to use what he said, and like he said, there's great ways to find him and get in touch with him. So I really appreciate him being on the show. Let's go ahead and talk about donations to ZenTri. If you want to be, I'm going to start calling supporters of ZenTri Zenjas. You're a Zenja, part of the tribe, and you can support ZenTri if you find the practical, pragmatic, down-to-earth, simple advice that I give you to make your triathlon training so much easier, so much more effective, and so much more real and fulfilling, and lets you become the athlete that you've always wanted to be. Then you can support the show, ZenTri, by going to zentriathlon.com and scrolling down, and there is a link on the left side for PayPal donations to the show. And bandwidth is not cheap, and SoundCloud is not cheap, website's not cheap. This stuff all adds up, and your support not only keeps the show on the air, but it's also a vote that you like what I'm doing, and it keeps it coming. I absolutely love doing it with the feedback that I get that you support the show. So this episode's supporters are Brett Hoyer and also Dustin, who sent in an email, and he said, just as advertised, bought 10. Oh, he's talking about Hornet Juice. We'll get to that in a second. On the first order, and this stuff is amazing. Just did 52 miles on one packet and some UCAN. And one Amarita bar, of course. Love the pod. And then I think 6 exclamation points. Let me count. If you put a whole bunch of exclamation points, I read them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exclamation points. Way to go, Dustin. And Simon Wright and John Taylor, Connor Sanders, Richard Stewart, Jonathan Woodman, and Hun Chu. What's up, Hun? How's it going, dude? And the Hornet Juice is absolutely amazing. It's an amino acid packet that, so if you, another thing you can do is you go to zentriathlon.com and scroll down and there's a link to Hornet Juice. And you can buy like 10-pack, 20-pack, 30-pack. What happens is people buy a 10-pack, to kind of try it, and then they come back and go, holy crap, I need a 60-pack. And I send it all over the world. It is such an awesome seller because all it is an amino acid supplement. It's like 60 calories. So it's not the carbs. It's actually the protein, the amino acid in it that turns on your body's signaling to start burning body fat for fuel. And one packet lasts an hour and a half in your training. So you take a little bit before you get going if you want, or you can take it, during, and then also along as you go, and use it for like your longer workouts and races, and you will find that you just feel like a diesel engine. It's absolutely amazing how well it works, and you just add it in with your other fuel. And it's the special blend of amino acids. It's the ratio of certain ones to others that replicates the craziest thing in nature, which is the Japanese killer hornet is the most powerful, longest flying insect discovered by science for its body weight. And you have monarch butterflies fly, forever, but they don't weigh anything. A Japanese killer hornet is huge and heavy, and it flies a long way on body fat that it stores up. And so the mad scientists behind Hornet Juice sat down and figured out the amino acids that burn this body fat, that turn the hornet into a fat burning machine, and then replicate it in a lab. And so basically that's why they call it Hornet Juice. You are eating synthetic Japanese killer hornet amino acids from their saliva. It's absolutely crazy, and it absolutely works. It's so cool. So you can support, if you get some Hornet Juice, then you're actually helping yourself become a better athlete and have better results, and you're helping ZenTri at the same time, because every order that goes through Hornet Juice, you get an email from me that says thank you, and then you can email me all the questions that you want, and also, because now you have my email address, and then also you are, Hornet Juice gives me just the tiniest bit of kickback for every order, and that helps keep the show on the air. So we both win. You get something, I get something, we all get something. We all get to be better athletes, and we get to use something really cool that comes from New Zealand. You get the package from New Zealand with some cool postage. It's pretty neat. And I have to say, every episode, this is not used. It's only used for triathlon and endurance sports, not for your crazy sexcapades in your garage or whatever you do in your spare time. That's your own personal business. And every time I say that, people order more of it. Y'all are some weirdos out there. Okay, now let's see. We have one last sponsor before we get into the training log. The training log is where I tell you everything that I've been doing lately. I take the mic along with me and do some stuff. And this episode's training log is really fun. I take you with me walking along the side of a highway as I walk everywhere to, while I'm here in San Diego, to go to dinner. I walk 6 miles to eat dinner one night. I walk 2 miles to eat dinner another night. Climbing this huge hill. I walk through the gay district of San Diego to go eat dinner. And drink some beer, I'm on vacation, so I'm trying not to train. I got a little bit of plantar fasciitis in my feet. I'll probably talk about that and talk about the trail running. And I don't bring my bike with me on this trip, which is I did it on purpose because of Zen, and I wanted to simplify, and just all the drama with bringing a bike and all the money that it costs, I could use to Kai, my son, wants a set of race wheels for racing. And, it's a choice. Do I bring a bike with me so I can have fun, or do I be a responsible dad and a grown-ass man and, buy stuff for my son to give him a better life than my own? So there was all that coming in the training log, and that is brought to you by Chris Hague Racing. And Hague is like the Hague, Hague. And Chris is an awesome athlete, awesome coach. I'm super excited that he reached out to me to ask if he could put ads on the show for his coaching. And it turns out, actually, it's working really well. I got some great feedback that People love him. He went to University of the South at Sewanee and ran on the track team. I almost swam on their swim team. And then, let's see, what else did he do? He worked in a triathlon shop in the D.C. area. So he really knows his stuff. And he's a school teacher, so he really knows how to help and instruct and make sure that you are absorbing the data that he is giving you from his brain so that he can coach you and get you really great results. And you know what, on top of it all, he is like the greatest personality whatsoever. He's super, super helpful and friendly, and just love working with him all the way around. So again, that's chrishageracing.com. Chris Hague, Hague, racing.com. All right. That's enough of this stuff. Let's go ahead and get started with the training log. Just a lot of variety of different things. I think there's some swimming stuff in there too. And yeah, all kinds of cool stuff. All right, here we go with the training log.
You are entering the ZenTri training log zone. Huneli.
Hi everybody, my name is Brett. I'm a triathlete.
I decided it's time I got some friends more suited to my status.
But Joe, we've been friends for years.
Hey, we all make mistakes. Come on, dudes, let's go exercise! Exercise! I'm gonna do sit-ups till I poop myself!
All right, welcome to a new training log. Start date, July 17th, Captain's Log, approaching Planet Swimming Pool. And man, I have something cool to help your swimming that I just figured out. I'm super, super stoked about. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to drive Emily's car, which I had to borrow today. And it all goes back to an article about Sun Yang, who's this incredible swimmer who swims so fast in the Olympics. He's from China, and he swims with such ease. It looks like he's not even trying. And a nice, easy turnover rate. It's just miraculous watching him swim, whatever's going on there. And there was an article on Swim, whatever, the big swimming website, where somebody had written an opinion about he's basically so good. They're trying to compare him to an emperor penguin and what an emperor penguin does because he's so good. We have to maybe consider that he's not human, some kind of alien. But an emperor penguin, when it's on land or on an iceberg, it fluffs up its feathers, and it has a layer of feathers that traps air underneath. And then when a leopard seal tries to attack one, or maybe when it needs a burst of speed to not just escape, but also maybe to grab a fish, it squeezes its feathers down and releases this burst of microbubbles that cuts down the resistance. Now it's swimming through foamy water, like air water, instead of just water, and the resistance is much, much less. And much less, like it can swim like 3 times faster than before when it does this. And so this person was theorizing that Sun Yang was doing something with his breathing out, where a trickle of air bubbles was being released, where he was swimming through microbubbles of air, much like an emperor penguin is doing. And maybe that has something to do with how he's so fast. And there's all this video of Sun Yang swimming, which is, you want to see Sun Yang, maybe it's 2008 Olympics, 1,500 meters. It's incredible. And the theory works along like that, right? And it says, and then the person said, well, but it's okay. I mean, we just don't know, but it's at least an idea, something that's going on. And it looks like maybe it applies. So anyway, I read that a couple days ago, and then I went swimming this morning. And while I was swimming, I thought, oh man, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try blowing a stream of air bubbles under my chest so that it's straight down below me, so that as I swim over it, it kind of wraps around me and maybe creates like this pocket of microbubbly air that I'm swimming through, and maybe it'll make me faster, right? And that's one thing, and that's its own separate thing. But what I discovered is, while I'm doing this and trying to blow air down below me forcefully so that it travels back further without just wrapping around my head and escaping behind me and not being of much use, I want it to kind of cavitate around my body a little bit. Well, while I was doing this, I realized, I started pursing my lips, like blowing out my cheeks and making a small hole with my mouth so that the bubbles, I could force them down further, and so they would end up being more useful to the rest of my body as they wrapped around me. And if you're swimming without something over your torso, or maybe if you're a girl and you're swimming in a two-piece, you can feel, the bubbles kind of trickling down across your belly button before they escape around you. And so I'm doing that, and then I realize something that is really, really interesting. When you purse your lips to blow out air, you're doing something that's very, very useful for oxygen consumption, to maximize your oxygen intake. Notice when you run, and you run harder and harder and faster and harder, that what do you start doing? You start making a smaller and smaller hole with your mouth, and then blowing your cheeks out. And what that's doing is, on your out breath, you're making the hole smaller so that when you push out, you're creating higher pressure inside your lungs. And that higher pressure drives more oxygen out of the air that's in your lungs, across the membrane in your lungs and into your bloodstream, right? So it's higher pressure. And hold on, I'm trying to avoid a bird that's in the road. And that makes your breathing much, much more efficient. And you can tell, it's funny, all humans do this. It's so bizarre that we do this. And because you would think if this didn't work, well, the faster you'd run, wouldn't you just open your mouth bigger and bigger to consume more oxygen, right? But try it. Try to run as hard as you can, but hang your mouth open as wide as you can, and then breathe really hard and watch what happens. Nothing. You'll probably pass out, because you need more air than that, more oxygen to cross the lung membrane. And so again, you're pursing. What's effective is to purse your lips and blow out through the smallest hole to get that air pressure up, right? So I started doing that while swimming along casual to moderate for a whole different reason, to try to swim like a penguin, like a Sun Yang emperor penguin. So it was accidental why I was doing this. But what I found was my ability level, my perceived effort started to drop very, very much, from like a 7 down to like a 3, because I was getting more and more oxygen sooner and better than ever before. And so I figured this out about halfway through my hour swim practice. And then for the second half hour, I started working with this, trying to analyze what was going on and how to maximize this. And what I figured out was, and then there's something else. Every time you stick your head up to get a breath, to get more oxygen, if you're a good swimmer, you turn it to the side. But anyway, it creates a little bit of drag. It's inefficient. You need air, but getting air has a penalty. So the less you have to come up for air, the faster you go. Well, if you maximize your air intake, your air efficiency, then you have to come up for air less frequently, and then you'll be faster, right? So all these things started combining together. Basically, what I figured out was, on the out breath, if you purse your lips, no matter how that's the trick, no matter how fast you're going, or actually no matter how slow you're going, if you get in the habit of pursing your lips, blowing out your cheeks, and letting the air out pushing hard but letting the air out slowly, you create very high pressure in your lungs, and you're getting more oxygen transfer, and then you can swim bilaterally or even less frequently than that, and you're not struggling for air. And with that, instead of swimming single-sided breathing, now you're getting air on both sides, but less frequently, and you're more aerodynamic or hydrodynamic, I don't know what the word is, through the water, because you're not sticking your head up as much anymore. And then maybe possibly this whole air trickling bubbles thing is making you faster as well. I don't know. But I was just like, holy crap. Like the feeling you get throughout your muscles is like, I could swim like this forever. And it's fast. And the need for oxygen, the need to breathe just drops significantly, and you settle into a really nice pull that feels strong and wonderful. And anyway, all this really, really great stuff. So I want you to try it and report back to me on ZenTriathlon on Twitter, or send me an email at texafornia, TEXAFORNIA @gmail.com. and tell me your experience, or comment on the blog at ZenTriathlon.com and tell me your experience with trying this. Because what I was doing before was I was just breathing out, normally, swimming casually, and then if I started swimming really hard, I got to the point where I needed to do the pursing lip thing, breathing, and that's fine, but everything in swimming has to do with technique and little tricks here and there that are counterintuitive and stuff that you wouldn't think, because, water isn't our natural environment. So we got to think completely differently and do stuff that works differently. And let me know, try it. And again, this is the other thing I figured out too. I love Zen because you just learn to pay attention and not judge and just see what works. Oh my God, it's so great. But so I'm swimming along and I'm doing the pursed lip, blowed out cheeks, exhales, right? Inhale doesn't matter. Make a big mouth, suck in all the air you want. But then you do this on the exhale, and feeling wonderful, and the needing to take fewer breaths but still swimming the same or faster. And then the other thing for people that struggle with flip turns and getting water up your nose, I wanted to give you a tip because I was really paying attention to this. Like, what are people doing exactly to flip turn and not get water up their nose? And I can tell you, when you flip and you start going upside down, or anytime you get this problem where water might run up your nose, the trick that people that can do it successfully is they're letting a very, very small trickle of air out their nose, and that creates back pressure against the water that's trying to run up your nose. So you can practice it just at your desk at work, or while you're just driving your car or whatever. Take a big breath and then let a very slow trickle of air out your nose, and that'll keep water from running up your nose when you're doing the flip. So you learn to do it while you're flipping and while you push off, and then you're good to go. Okay, that's it. I got to go into W to the ERK. Everybody work on your swimming and try to be like a penguin. Oh, this sport is crazy, isn't it? All right. Well, hey, dudes. I'm walking along a little access road in Hotel Circle in San Diego, and the freeway is about 50 yards to my left, and it's not that loud because it's pretty much at a traffic jam, light standstill. And I'm just walking through parking lots and sidewalks on the way to go eat dinner. It's about 5:13 in the afternoon, and I did something, I made a Zen decision, and decided to not bring my bike on this trip. I started boxing it up and then decided it was just too much work, too much money. I'd rather have that $300 it was going to cost at least to bring my bike. I could have brought a scooter, actually. And just decided to not spend it and not bring a bike this trip. And just go through the challenge of seeing what that's like. I need to take a little bit of a break from training. And when I first got here, I went trail running on Saturday with Morgan. And it's kind of muddy. Just went for an hour. Pretty easy. It was a lot of vert, a lot of climbing, but pretty easy. And then on Sunday, went for an hour swim. And now we're at Wednesday. And I haven't done anything now for 3 days. And it's nice. Taking a little bit of a break and walking everywhere. So I can tell you how I'm doing it. Get on Google Maps. Put a point where you are. Put a point to where you want to go. And see how far it is. And you can estimate about 21 minutes per mile on flat ground. And it'll tell you. You can switch it over to walking mode. And so Monday night, I walked up from Hotel Circle up to Hillcrest, the Whole Foods in Hillcrest, which is the gay district. And they just had Pride Week, I think last week. So it was full on rainbow, everything, all the time, which is fun. And I walked to Whole Foods because you can, get stuff at the salad bar, food bar, buffet bar, whatever, and get your groceries. And then you just sit down at a small table, after you check out, just eat your stuff. Well, I get there, and they've added a bar to the Whole Foods, the 7th Avenue or 7th Street bar, and it's good. And they have food there that was phenomenal, and they had specials. So I'm drinking microbrew ale and taking a break from everything. I brought my laptop with me. Did I? Maybe not the first day. I think I just enjoyed a beer or two. Well, it's definitely 2. And then did my grocery shopping and walked back. And it's a 700-foot climb on this. At least a 700. That's right. Let's say a 700-foot climb to get up to Hillcrest from my hotel in my 3-mile walk. And then that was last night. And then yesterday, Morgan came to hang out with me. He said, hey, I want to have some beers, and then we talk about business stuff. Computer programming, websites, and lots of fun stuff. And eat dinner, but have a few beers first. And I said, cool, let's, where do you want to go? And he goes, I don't know. I go, I don't know. And we did that whole back and forth, I don't know thing for a while. And I said, hey, let's go to the gay bar up at Whole Foods. And because it was solid rainbows, the whole thing, in and out. And Morgan said, nah, dude, we won't get anything done in there. Like stand up and work on computers. And I go, no, dude, there's tables and you can order food. And it's Whole Foods food. Like, it's good. And so we kind of thought about it for a little bit. And said, oh, okay, let's go try it. So we drove up there, parked on the roof, and then went to the 7th Street bar. And I don't know if it's a gay bar or not. It's just in the gay district. So I don't know what classifies as a gay bar anyway. But the here's your siren. Oh, block traffic. Anyway, we sat up there and worked on stuff, and it was really cool, man. He was blown away. He was like, man, there's like tables. There was more children in there because it's a grocery store than there were adults, it seemed like. About 50-50 maybe. And, dude, it was just really good getting projects done, work done. So then today I wanted to go do something different. And I'm here with coworkers, but I come every year to this thing in San Diego. it seems like. And they're young couple, and I want them to go have fun. So I'm like, y'all take, every night, I'm like, y'all take the car, I'll figure out the rental car that we have. I'll figure my way out. The challenge of being resourceful, you know? And I'm in this Zen mode where I simplify. And it was way nicer flying with one suitcase instead of a suitcase and a bike and then assembling things. And honestly, it could have gone either way. A bike would be really, really nice. But I was also worried about, if I brought the bike, well, then I've got to lock it like crazy because it's a nice road bike. It gets stolen. So I'm just, I figured I'd try it, doing everything on foot. You don't know until you try, you know? And so I know that I've had dinner out here with Long Runner on Twitter last summer at a restaurant at the mall, the Fashion Valley Mall. And I'm like, well, and it was really good, like really healthy options. And I think he's vegan. So it's just nice, like really healthy meal with lots of greens and stuff. And so I was like, well, from my hotel, okay, if it's 3 miles again, I don't know, because that took 45 minutes, 40 minutes plus each way. That was a long walk. And so I could totally feel like the hardship of poorer people. You can never get anything done because you're having to work so hard to get just the basics done. You just want water, or you just want food. You got to walk 3 miles, 6 miles, 10 miles, just to get food for your village. You don't have time to get an education or anything because you're freaking walking everywhere. So there's like a breaking point, a threshold of, where being disadvantaged just screws you over, So I'm like, I got stuff to do to make money. I got work, and I got coaching, and I've got whatever I do, and rest and recuperation. And so if it's like 45 minutes each way just to eat dinner, I'm like, well, I don't know. So, but I got on Google Maps, popped it open. It's a mile to my to this restaurant at the mall, and there's a semi-safe walking area to get there, like sidewalk. So here I go. I'm going to the mall. Get some time on my feet. A little bit of walking and exercise. That's not really true exercise. And a little bit of thinking time. So I'm going to get off the mic. I'm purposefully walking and not listening to any podcasts or anything so that I can think of what I want to do next. I got things I got to knock out. So I'll be back. Bueno. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. I'm back in my hotel room. You can probably tell by the echo. Is there a way for it not to echo? I don't know. But anyway, I had a really great dinner at this True Food Kitchen was the name of the restaurant that I hopped in. And so many things, man, so many things not to be afraid of. When I got my ass sent off to military school, we used to hitchhike along the highway to get into town. And I was 14 years old and turned on in a week. I went from 14 years old to being a grown-ass man because it was like prison. I had to fight for myself, fight for everything, be on guard, and also earn all my friends with no money, just who you are, and no cool clothes, nothing. They shave your head, and they start teaching you to attack your fears and become really brave in the heart. And if something scares you, that's actually something that you ought to start working on. It's Marine Corps military school. And I wasn't even the youngest guy there. I was a sophomore but I was young for my grade. So I was 14. And there was kids there in 8th grade, man. Really, really rough. In South Texas on the border of Mexico. And boarding school 24/7, no going home, nothing. And so we used to hitchhike along the side of the highway if we managed to get what they call Liberty, which is weekend time to go into town. And it's a shitty town, Harlingen in the 80s. And we would walk into town and get in trouble and stuff. But coming to San Diego now, 20-something years later, 25 years later, walking along the side of the highway, a lot of time to think, and a lot of times to practice your bravery to get stuff done, and a lot of times remembering what it's like to have to do everything on foot, and then enjoying the little things that come to fruition when and the self-confidence, of being able to do shit yourself, man. And so I'm walking through the mall because it's an open-air mall. They have lots of these in San Diego because it never rains. And I got a guy trying to think he's all cool and harass me, trying to sell me some stuff. And I'm like, dude, back off, like, I don't need your hand lotion right now. I'm good. And, the self-confidence of having done something all on your own instead of being spoon-fed leads you to a mission accomplished, kind of get stuff done, and it gives you energy to keep doing more and more and more, and to be self-sufficient, And way before I went to military school, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I was in a high-adventure Boy Scout troop where we went backpacking in the Rockies and in swamps and weekend 3-4 day weekend trips of wilderness survival where it gets below freezing at night, and you have the only clothes you can bring with you are what you can fit in your pockets, which is almost nothing. And if you want to eat, here's a rabbit in a cage, and you have to kill the rabbit to eat. If you don't want to eat, don't. And it had a block of cheese, a rabbit, a raw egg, and a chicken. If you and that's your food for it was 3 days, 4 days, something like that. I was covered in so many ticks by the end of it. Had to pluck a chicken, had to oh my God, it just goes on and on. But anyway, being self-sufficient, you forget your food on one of these campouts, one of these backpacking trips. Well, you're going to go hungry, and then after a while, I got promoted to being a patrol leader and in charge of 7 to 12, 13 kids younger than me, and making sure that they had food and that they had tents and stuff like that. And when we'd go camping, and I remember one camp out, I forgot. So I don't know how I managed to forget, but I forgot one of the tents. And so this whole crap with leaders eat last. That's such a hardship. No, dude, leaders sleep on the freaking ground in 35 degrees with raccoons crawling all over the goddamn place, while with no tent because they forgot their stupid tent, because they forgot somebody else's tent. And the kid that's 4 years younger than you, that's a tenderfoot, basically just barely beyond a Cub Scout, now a Boy Scout, he sleeps in a tent while you suck it up. So I walked back from the mall and was really enjoying my walk and dodging cars. I had to walk under a freeway, and again saw people actually fishing out of the San Diego River, which is like a creek, and it's nothing but pollution and runoff. So again, saw people living a tough life under there. But while I was in the mall, actually I did. Oh, this is another thing. So you learn confidence, and you take ownership in yourself, and you learn bravery. I remember at military school, on rare occasion, we get a chance to go into town and go to the mall, the Harlingen Mall, and there would be girls, and we would start, you want to ask a girl out to what, basically, but just to hang out. And so we started practicing hitting on girls, asking them out on dates. And some of my best friends, who I'm actually going to hang out with, a couple of them again at the end of the summer, we taught each other the bravery to ask questions and see what happens. And it is so amazing what happens when you ask, So I went from, oh my gosh, I'm too afraid to ask a girl, to just going up and asking a girl, hey, what are you doing after you get off work? Right? Oh, I don't know. What? You're surprised. They go, oh, I've got a boyfriend. And you're like, okay, cool. But if you change your mind about your boyfriend, we'll be over here, and we'll come back later. Just wave at me if when I come back later, you're still interested. And sometimes they waved, and sometimes they, wanted to go out on a date right then. But that's all besides the point. The point is you learn to ask because you never know what the other person's going to say. And there's no harm in asking because you don't even know what the answer is going to be. It may be yes or some version of no, but some other option that you never thought of. So I'm walking through this mall, and they have a Tesla. Everybody's just kind of, not everybody. There's like 5 people kind of standing around and just looking at it. Wow, and just looking at this Tesla, and the hood's open, and there's no engine in the front. And there's no engine. There's no engine in the back either. It's just like it's batteries and electric motors that are really low slung. So the front has cargo area under the hood, and the trunk is really big inside. And these things go 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds now. They're amazing, and they're like $70,000 to start. And I said there was a woman standing by it, and just like asking for a ride, walking down the highway in Harlingen, Texas, just like asking the girl out for the date. I asked this girl, I said, "Hey, can I sit in it?" I've asked this before and managed to sit in Ferraris and shit. And she said, "Absolutely." And I said, "Oh, cool. So how do I get in it?" I know that the handles pop out when you do something. The handles are sleek with the body, and they pop out, and it's for aerodynamics. She goes, "Oh, you just touch the handle, and then it'll come out to you," or something like whatever kind of language. And I was like, "All right, sweet." So I got in and I took pictures, and then I said, "Hey, can you take a picture of me in the car?" She said, "Yeah, I certainly will." And I said, "Cool, I've got a 10-year-old son, and he is going to love this." So I got her to take a picture of me in a Tesla, not running, but I mean, it's just a golf cart, it's an electric golf cart that's just steroided out. So it's just cool to sit in it. The console is really cool, very, very cool, and huge, and all digital. Like, oh my gosh, it's really rad. So anyway, there was all that going on. So just a little life lesson there. I had a real nice adventure, and now I have lots of energy because I did something cool, because I went for a walk instead of trying to, drive and sit in a traffic jam all day and listen to prearranged music on a radio station. And you can do it too. And let's see. Let's go ahead and wrap up everything. Let's give a shout out to a sponsor. Make sure I got my sponsors all lined up here. Let's talk about Sound Probiotics. And Sound Probiotics is a pill you take that has bacteria in it, the good bacteria that makes your immune system super happy, super healthy, and 70% of your immune system comes through your digestive tract, through the bacteria in your digestive tract, and these are the bacteria that support health and immunity. And all you got to do is pop some of these in. I think it's like 25 million bacteria in one pill of the good bacteria, and it starts you going along and also continues to create the good bacteria in your gut instead of the bad bacteria. And I was actually saying for a little while, I used to say that it was the bacteria, and then somebody corrected me and said, no, it's the food for the bacteria. And then somebody just corrected me back and said, no, it's the bacteria. Oh my God. But there's bacteria units. It's a CFU, I think, is the count in there, and that's where I got the 25 million from. And anyway, Sound Probiotics is the happy good bacteria. You go check them out. You get a discount if you get them through ZenTri. All you got to do is when you go to Sound Probiotics, you use a discount code ZenTri, all caps, ZenTri, and get 10% off your order. It's pretty cool. Really simple. I really like it. I tried it for a little bit and then said, yep, I'm in, because it's very, very, very simple. And we like simple here at ZenTri. And let's see, I wanted to pass that on to you, Zenjas. That's what I'm going to start calling you guys, Zen Ninjas. And then we have, well, let's do some of the other sponsors towards the top of the show. And I'd also like to thank Alan Couzens. That was really cool. I was really stoked to have him on. And again, that was just an ask, right? And the real Starkey mentioned to me offhandedly that he gets the people on his show, his big name interviews that he gets, he just asks. That's it. That's all it takes. That's your homework this episode, is to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for stuff and watch what happens. It's really, really amazing. Dwayne, who is a longtime supporter of the show, sent me an email asking about this thing from Blue Core, and that's the company, and the thing is called the Core Suit, and it's this. It's probably looks like a rigid piece of plastic that you strap to your body, and it keeps you from turning and twisting too much, and it allows you to really feel what you're doing in the water. And you know what? He asked what I think of it, and dude, I've seen crazier crap in the water than that for sure. So I say go ahead and try it, and if you don't like it, send it back. What'll make you faster in the pool is stuff that makes you more aware of what your body is doing. And that's why to be a faster freestyler, you need to do different strokes like breaststroke and backstroke and whatever. Butterfly if you can, because that teaches you body awareness and just playing in the water. One thing that led me to being a good swimmer, a competitive swimmer, was that I just lived in the swimming pool, swimming around underwater, chasing my friends, diving, running in and trying to get to the other side, pushing off walls constantly, practicing through play. And that gives me just incredible body awareness in the water of what's happening and what fast feels like and what slow feels like. And these tools like paddles and cords and this Core Suit thing, CORSUIT, I've seen something like it before. And if it teaches you kickboards, I mean, like all this stuff, pool boys, they teach you what your body is doing in the water and try to fix your form. And the thing is you try it and then you see if it makes you faster. Always time yourself and see what makes you faster, what makes you slower. So I say give it a try. And I think that's it for this episode. And I'd like to give a shout out to all the sponsors and stay tuned for the next episode. We will be back in Texas with the new house and trying to set up the training cave and just tons of stuff that I'm going to be getting rid of and cleaning up my life to trim things down. You know, when you move from one place to the other, you find all this crap that you don't need. I got so many bike parts. Actually, I need some help. Like, where do I sell this stuff? You know, do I put it on eBay? Then I'm dealing with shipping stuff somewhere. You know, do I put it on Craigslist? And then I end up haggling with people over crap when it's just junk. You know, but some of it's good. I threw away a bike frame the other day because I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it's just an old shitty bike frame that wasn't worth anything. And I could have sold it, but man, it's worth like $20, and we're in the middle of moving and everything. So it's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna get rid of it. You always have to balance, you know, how much something's worth versus your time to deal with it and your stress. A lot of us don't think that way. We need to start thinking that way. All right. So that's it for now. Everybody stay safe out there. Tune in to the next episode when we come around with our next guest, which will be Leslie. Yep, there it is. It is definitely on. Going to be interviewing her on Monday. Leslie Smith, pro triathlete with Maverick. Oh, man, that's going to be really cool. I'm very interested in talking with her because she eats well-rounded meals, and she's going to do a food log for us. Female pro, food log. Oh, man, it's going to be good stuff. So stay tuned. Everybody stay safe out there. Use Zenjus. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down out.